Imagine being the father of animation, creating characters that would be loved by millions, as well as creating animation techniques that would completely change the animation industry, but being almost completely forgotten and overshadowed by a mouse. Hello, my name is Jonathan Espitia, and today I will be talking about Max Fleischer. First, I will discuss Max Fleischer's career. Then I'll finish off by talking about his downfall and his eventual death. Let's first start off with Max Fleischer's career. Max Fleischer always thought the animation was jerky, very stiff, rigid, and quite unrealistic. He then thought about an idea about the rotoscope. The rotoscope was basically an idea that would get a camera that would project live action film onto a glass panel. The illustrators would then draw over the glass panel, thus creating the animation. Now keep in mind, back in those days, cameras ran at 16 frames per second, meaning that 1 second of film meant that they needed 16 different drawings. According to FleischerStudios.com, Max Fleischer filed a patent on the rotoscope on December 6, 1915. He then told his brother David Fleischer about this idea. With David Fleischer, he created the rotoscope and then worked on a cartoon. It took them 8 hours a day for nearly 1 year to create just 1 minute of film. Later on, they would hire more people, which would decrease the time that needed to create a cartoon. Dave Fleischer would dress up as a clown and be recorded and then later animated with the rotoscope. In 1921, Max Fleischer created the company Out of the Inkwell Inc. And by 1923, Max Fleischer moved to New York and employed 19 people. Around this time, Max Fleischer met a man named Lee DeForest, who was a sound technician. With his help, he created the bouncing ball in 1924, which was a little ball that would jump across lyrics that had synchronized sound in the background. In 1928, Max Fleischer released My Old Kentucky Home, which also had audio in the background. This was 4 years before Steamboat Willie, which was released by Walt Disney. Walt Disney always said that he was the first creator of a cartoon with audio. However, that was not the case. It was rumored that Walt Disney actually discouraged news reporters from reporting on Max Fleischer's old cartoons. However, this was never confirmed. Max Fleischer also created many popular characters. According to YourDictionary.com, he created Coco the Clown, which was Max Fleischer's younger brother dressed up as a clown, which would then be recorded into a film, into a cartoon. In 1930, Max Fleischer created Betty Boop, according to the Encyclopedia of the World Biography Online. He would later get the rights to Popeye and make him very successful, being the creator of him eating spinach to get stronger and creating the song I'm Popeye the Sailor Man song. Although Max Fleischer was at top of his career, he would later make some mistakes that would cause his downfall. Max Fleischer's cartoons were the polar opposite of Walt Disney's cartoons. Walt Disney had many cartoons that were very colorful, child-friendly, while Max Fleischer's cartoons were quite dreadful, had a lot of death and sex, as well as torture scenes. An example of this was Betty Boop. Betty Boop was often sexualized in many of his cartoons. Max Fleischer's animation style was called the East Coast style, while Walt Disney's animation style was called the West Coast style, and thus a rivalry began. Later on, around the late 1930s, Max Fleischer was signed with Paramount to distribute his films. According to Britannica.com, in the mid-1930s, Betty Boop had to be tamed with her sexualization. This was due to the production code that the United States released around that time. The production code meant that it would limit the amount of sexualization and violence that would be produced on TV. Thus, her popularity went down. Paramount also wanted to mimic what Walt Disney was doing, creating cartoons that were both colorful and child-friendly. Thus, they made Max Fleischer create those type of cartoons. He would release Gulliver's Travels, which wasn't very successful. He later on worked on a Superman series, which was actually quite a bit successful, although it was too expensive and was unfortunately canceled. At this point, the company was in debt. Paramount ended up kicking both Max Fleischer and his brother from the company and renamed the company to Famous Cartoons. Max Fleischer would later come back to the company and work as a production chief until the 1960s. He would later die on 9/11/1972 of a heart failure. In conclusion, Max was very passionate about animation and wanted to revolutionize the way animation was done, and was very successful. However, he fell from grace, and today not many people know him. Today I discussed his career as well as his downfall and his eventual death. People don't know his name, but he set the grounds for animation. Without him, we wouldn't have cartoons like Tom and Jerry or movies like The Lion King. So next time when you see a Disney film, remember, it was all because of Max Fleischer. That has been my speech for today. My name is Jonathan Espitia, and thank you for watching.